Hello. Today is Tuesday, May 13th, 2025, session 3 of the Leadership Coaching Collective. Play that. Okay. Good morning, everyone. I want to let you know that Maria had reached out and her kids surprised her with a birthday trip. So she's on her whirlwind, well, maybe not whirlwind, but her birthday vacation. So very exciting. Happy birthday, Maria. And I thought we would change up the format a little bit today. Let me put you in gallery. There we go. There we go. Um, I want to make sure because I feel some momentum happening. And so I want to do one quick little exercise and then dive into all of you having some time. Then we'll do that education piece. And then we're hopefully come back to giving you a chance towards the end to say your piece. Okay. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Yes. Are you feeling it? Are you feeling the momentum? I see
Yes.
a couple grins. Yes, yes. Okay.
Yes.
So in before we begin that portion, like I put on the document, this is your time. So if you want to just use your time to update, okay. If you want to use your time to say help and then we weigh in, great. If you want to do a little bit of both, to some degree, my vision for this is of course, to support you, to help you move forward. It's all about the momentum. It's about, your ceiling becomes your floor. And so, on that note, now, Bama, I think you're the only one that this is going to feel kind of familiar. And for the others, this will be like, maybe Susan, maybe Susan. For the rest, for the remaining people, it's going to be like, what is she doing? So, back in 2018, 2019, when we began the 1650 program, I was probably a somewhat closeted coach in that I didn't share all of my woo with everyone. And I just found more and more in my individual practice, individual one-on-one coaching practice, that so many more people were benefiting when I was sharing it. So I started bringing it into 1650. And I was getting feedback like, oh, I really like this and the grounding, it's all really good. And so is anyone not in a private space? Okay, good. So let's start out by talking about energy. And I'm actually going to start out. This wasn't my original intention, but last week I was coaching or working with a team 2 solid days, which actually anymore is kind of on the rare side where we do like half day sessions or full day sessions. But this was 2 back-to-back days, 5 leaders. Two were misbehaving and 3 were totally accepting. So one guy, without too much detail, one guy was like a spoiled, insolent child, mid 40s. I don't want to be here. I had to travel to be here. This sucks, like wham. And kind of this energy. If you know DISC at all, on out of 30 questions, 21, he was high D. So very, like, "Ugh." And then it's not my way. And then the other guy was fragile ego. We'll call him that. Where like, oh yeah, yeah, I know exactly what's going on here. I don't need to pay attention. And he didn't. And I would ask questions. He was like, oh, what do you need us to do? He was checked out. So the day one was okay because I had we did team identity and then we did open 360. So there was like something really concrete to play with. And then day two, I was going to teach them all these models and stuff. And I'm telling you what, they were like on such bad behavior. All that to say, I got sucked in. On day two, I did not ground like I did on day one. And I got sucked into their awful energy and I really feel bad about the 3 people who were engaged because I gave them less than myself. Now, I did talk to a couple of them, and one guy was like, "Wow, I thought you were unflappable." Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. I know what I'm capable of. It wasn't the session that I had hoped for. So, all that to say, if I could do it over again, mostly it's on me because I allowed their energy, and I am sensitive to energy. That's just a fact, Jack. I allowed their energy to impact me. So all the same things that we're talking about, it happened. And so afterwards, instead of because so it was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday morning, I was like, oh, what's the lesson there? The lesson is only attract clients who are healthy. And I was like, well, then I guess I'll never have clients. You know what I mean? It's not to say anyone's unhealthy, but that doesn't need this work, right? And then I was like, well, that's probably not and that doesn't stretch me at all. So then the second level was, okay, learn how to handle dude energy better because it was a lot of dude energy. And then the third version, the third iteration of my own developments or my own working through it was me owning my power and me understanding what I'm capable of. And I should have addressed it in the moment. I literally should have stopped and said, everyone brings energy into the room. You have to be responsible for your energy. And I'm not gonna you can't touch me. I've got my invisible shield up and my wall and my cuffs, ting 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 ting, and I am not accepting your crap. And I didn't do that. I wasn't in. So what I told the president, who was also in attendance as one of the five, and he said, well, what do you think was like, what do you think went wrong? I think is how he said it. It would have been ridiculous of me to blame it on them. I said, I was not prepared for the resistance. And he said, what does that mean? I said, well, because I wasn't prepared for it, AKA grounded, right, ready to deliver, I allowed that energy into my realm. And so I could not stay balanced. I could not stay grounded. And towards the end, it was just because they were all just kind of like somber and watching, and I was doing misperceptions, right? I was perceiving it as they're bored, this is terrible, we should move on. And so I make it sound really, really bad. It was actually quite good for them. I just know that I'm capable of so much more. So I give you that long dramatic story to say we're starting out with some grounding exercises. So um, my goal is to meditate every morning. My goal, almost a necessity, is that I meditate every night before bed. Now, sometimes it's 5 minutes, sometimes it's an hour, and sometimes it's prayer meditation. Sometimes it's, doing a guided meditation. But for me, because of that sensitivity to energy, I have to do that to maintain my balance, right? All that to say, what is balance, right? It is feeling grounded. And actually, this is the stuff I said that I wasn't going to do till the end. So we're going to just do a real quick grounding exercise, and then we're going to jump into you all because I feel something's going on. Okay, so I'll talk you through a little bit of a visualization. It's pretty quick. Bama, do you know what's coming? Oh, yeah. So I love when everyone, Susan, did we do this in your class? You think so? Okay. So I love it when we are chanting an ah. Heather, I can almost feel your eyes rolling. Okay, so it doesn't even touch me. um, we're going to do like an ah with my breath, And I will say that my breath can be pretty good. So don't feel like you have to stick with my breath. Take multiple breaths if you need to, but we're just going to do this two long drawn out ahs. And while we're doing that, it's visualizing this light kind of running vertically through us, like grounding us on one end. So, like into the earth. And yes, I went out and did grounding this morning. I was in the grass barefoot. And then that light just kind of like flows through us and right up into the sun, the sky, your source, whatever you want to call it, right? Just this connected sort of a balancy sort of light. Ready? Okay. I would advise you close your eyes and do it as a visualization. And actually, now that I described what to do, I don't know that I'm going to talk through it. We'll just do the part of it because it would be hard to do and talk at the same time. So there you go. Okay. I feel like ready. Remember when you're a kid? Ready, set. Oh, 3 deep breaths. Deeply rooted, deeply, deeply rooted. Hear anybody else? Yes, I want you to do this out loud. I should have said that. Um, okay, another deep breath. And let's rock and roll, ladies. Doesn't that feel good? Yeah, feels really good. Okay. See, it's that simple. Could be as simple as just like 3 minutes. Okay, who would like to kick us off? So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put on a timer for 4 minutes, and then we'll do 4 minutes in response. Keep your microphones open unless there's background noise, and use your 4 minutes wisely. Try to be as succinct as possible, and then pull in questions or tell us how we can help you, or tell us you don't want us, or whatever it is. Let us know and be mindful of the timer. That being said, I got to pull the timer back up. Okay, who would like to start us off?
I'm confused. I don't know what we're talking about.
We are starting with each of okay, thank you for saying that. We are just starting out with our own time. And so it is an update. If you would want it to be an update, it could be a like, here's something I've been struggling with since the last time I talked to everyone. I need help with this. Or it could be, here's what's been happening, and I also need help with this. So a little bit of a combo. Or it's, I just need to talk this out. You don't even need to say a word. I just need to verbalize this. So, whatever that time is for you. And if you haven't thought about this in advance and you don't have like a burning issue, it might be, here's an area where I want to grow. I have learned this about myself already. Here's an awareness I already have. And I would like some support moving forward. So it's really catered to whatever is important for you in this moment. That being said, who would like to go first?
I can go first.
Okay. Ready? The timer begins.
Okay. So this week, actually, I got a call from a management consulting firm that they were they were looking at any kind of person with a financial background to work for Cuyahoga County, which is, I think it's where Cleveland is, that county. It's a 6 months assignment, and I was interviewed by the client, and I liked what they had to say about the county, at least to help them clean up some of the stuff they are behind in, which is what I really like to do. So I will be traveling there next week.
So you didn't tell us if you said yes or no.
Yes, I said yes. I said yes, and then I'm waiting for the contract to come through from the consulting firm. And usually I will start calculating the cost. I will try to calculate all the negative barriers which I have, which because I'm like one of those detail-oriented, pessimistic person. So here because I had worked with you before, Heidi, and then have kind of had this now, my ceiling is my floor. I thought I was kind of, what shall I say? I felt liberated. I felt like there is this whole new world which I had not explored. And so I'm very excited about it. And then, some of my my brothers like, oh, do you want to go at this age? Do you want to really travel to a different state? It's only temporary and all of that. But this is my authentic core that I like to help clients. And this is exactly what I wanted to do. So I wanted to thank you for that. For giving me the confidence. Otherwise, I would have listened to my brothers and would have said, no way. So thank you. I'm really excited about this new assignment.
Well, you told me yesterday in an email about this, and that was my question. Does that feel right? You did say that you had the confidence to say yes.
Yes.
Are you having any buyer's remorse, or do you feel pretty
No,
cool?
I feel excited. I feel,
Okay,
yes, I have to know about the Ohio state rules. I did some research. I'm going to, call them and talk to the state auditor as what is it that they are requiring of the county. And so I'm kind of excited, very excited.
that's awesome. Well, I will say this. I see a light in your eyes and a brightness in your face
Thank
that
you.
I did not see before.
No.
No. And so, that's something you all should be aware of is that this kind of work and standing in your power, all of that is reflected. You can't help contain, you can't help but radiate the joy, right? And that is so apparent on your face right now. So congratulations. Woohoo.
Yes, just a
Um,
few months ago, I did have a kind of a negative experience with my last employer, so I kind of got me down. So this is bringing me the confidence. I wanted to let the rest of my colleagues know,
Yes. And
or
much
the
like the
team.
story I just shared, you looked past that initial, like, I don't want to be in city government anymore. And now you're
Right.
like, I'm kind of excited about the adventure. And it's only 6 months. It's like,
That's right.
come on,
Exactly.
right? Oh,
Yes.
well, congratulations. Okay.
Thank you.
So what I would like for us to do now is I'm going to open up the clock for 4 minutes and let's all, share our thoughts. And this is all about Bama.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So
Ask
Bama,
questions if you want, make comments, whatever you want.
I'm interested. What excites you most about this? I heard you say that you like helping people, so that what it sounds like to me is you feel like you're stepping in a way that this community needs you, right?
Yes.
That you can
Yes.
like sort of share your gifts. Are there other
Yes.
things in addition to that that make this feel like a moment of something new, some opportunity for growth and expansion? What else, in addition to serving in this way,
Yes.
would you
I kind of tend to get bored with the status quo. And usually I will last to usually I last 4 to 7 years. So this feels like this is I like growth opportunities. I like challenges and growth. And my earlier vision was that I would like to kind of expand my government finance expertise beyond state of Michigan. So this just came out of the blue. I wasn't even looking. This gentleman contacted me. I was only applying around here.
Yeah.
So so I mean, sometimes you have this little vision, you think it's never going to happen, and here it is.
Mm. Ooh, that's so juicy. You know, the other thing, Bama, is that when I hear you did not talk about adventure and the status quo and any of that before. And I feel like this taps into your truth, that this taps into who you are authentically, opposed to your brother's truth for you. And so the fact that you confidently walked into something that lights you up is really apparent. And I personally I just couldn't be happier for you. Now you have work to do, right? The challenge for you will be not doing everything for everyone and having your boundaries. And, there's every opportunity presents more opportunity for growth. But you are well on your way. And this is super exciting. Okay. I'll try to back off so you all can talk. Anyone else?
I would just say congratulations and enjoy it. It's 6 months. It's a great opportunity to travel to another space and just get to know a new community and see what that offers and how things go.
Thank you so very much.
Do you know anything about the town that you're going to be residing in?
Yes, it's a county. It's actually for the Board of Health. I think there are some reports they have to file. They talked about the different types of services they offer. I haven't really worked with health department, although I have very little knowledge. And also, cost cutting ways to increase efficiency and effectiveness. And then I also am following Heidi's mantra, which is not doing, also being, which I always fail because I'm so task oriented.
Well, so please let us know how we can support you. Specifically, I want to know how I can support you. And
Yes, thank
I
you.
feel like you have a really exciting adventure where you can grow
Right.
and expand. And yeah, it's pretty exciting.
Thank
And on
you.
that note, thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
Okay, who would like to go next?
Okay.
Marcy, that was you. Okay, well, I was expecting you two to actually be our first one, so good timing. Go.
Okay, so I had this moment in conversation with Heidi about whether or not I was going to decide to put my application in when it opens up this second round for the city manager position. And it was this moment of aha of I don't have to be 100%. So what we know is that, like, we typically, for me anyway, if I know there's not 100% or more that I'm ready, qualified, capable, that's one thing. But then there's this other piece of either I'm all in or I'm all out, is sort of my personality. And the fact that I was like, I don't know if I'm all in. And she's like, so what does that matter? And I'm like, she's like, is it something that you're, more than 50%? Like, at any point, this is your decision. These are your choices. Like, at any point where you're like, this doesn't feel right, or it's not something that you want to do, like, you have control over that. And I'm just like, wow. Like, that was a moment of like, okay, you're right. So I have made that decision, and in doing so, here, like, some of the things that I know is that
Wait.
oh,
Tell us what the decision is.
that I am going to actually apply for the city manager position for Battle Creek. I like saying that out loud. I've only said that to a few people, but every time I do say that, I just like, what are those words that are coming out? Like, I can't.
Do you feel giddy?
No, I don't think.
Anyway, I don't mean to derail you. Keep talking. Go for it.
So here's what I know, especially when talking with our previous city manager, super supportive, helping give some thought to some things that I need to be thinking about and preparing for, is that this go around is going to be a more highly qualified candidate pool than we saw in the fall. We are hiring a different recruiting company that has a broader reach than just Michigan. They're very aggressive in actually headhunting versus the consultants that we had in the fall were kind of like, here's the process we're using, and whoever wants to apply, apply. And so we had not really a lot of strength in that candidate pool, which is why we are at a restart moment. So, when I was talking with Rebecca, she was like, like if you had applied in the fall, like this could have looked a lot different because and what I said to her is quite honestly, that doesn't scare me because of the fact that I'm okay where I'm at. And if this doesn't transition into me sitting in that seat, the whole point is that we have a stronger, more capable city manager that is, right? So, like, I'm okay with the fact that it's more a competitive process. I would rather it be that than for me to be in a pool of not as strong of candidates and be like, well, she's kind of the best we have, like I wouldn't want to be chosen in that kind of context. So I'm okay with that. I think some of my challenges are because I have been with the organization for 28 years. We have some long-standing commissioners that have been there through my whole tenure. So I think there may be some challenges with them thinking of me sort of as the little girl who came into the org 20 some years ago, right? Like I've held a number of different positions.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
but then, it's kind of like your own kids. Your kids are always your kid. You don't see them as an adult sometimes, right? Because you're like, oh, my little boy kind of thing. So I think there may be some of that I'll need to work through. And then another piece is the reality is I have some commissioners.
So I'm going to put the response timer on. If you would like us to respond, then wrap up your thoughts, or you can use the time to talk it out. What your choice. So here we go. You want us to respond?
Oh, yeah, you can. Oh, we can just have time.
No, finish your thought.
I was just going to say the other piece is the reality is in my role, I have a responsibility to help keep commission aligned with what they're tasked with. And sometimes they don't really like that. Like I've had to actually say to in front of commission, in front of the public, like, listen, you are all charged with the responsibility here today to make a decision rooted in fact, not rooted in the what ifs that you're the hypotheticals that you're presenting. And they're like, like, who is she to tell us what we're but that's my responsibility is to tell you like this is what you're charged with. And so there's moments of tension like that that you have in the work that you do. So I have that relationship to where an outside candidate, they won't have any of that sort of personal relationship or moment. So I feel like I'm going to need to navigate that to where an outside candidate won't as well. So I think that there's certainly challenges being an internal candidate sometimes.
Yeah. And they don't have the baggage, but they also don't have the insight.
Yeah, it's like both, right?
Yeah, exactly. So whatever is supposed to be will be. And from my point of view, I can see where helping you balance that quite frankly, feminine and masculine energy that we all have, helping you balance that is what's going to help you say, like, even when you think of that graph we looked at last week, if you're hanging out in accommodation and competition, right? Like, this is what's going to happen versus like, hey, whatever you want. That's where we want to blend that and get that kind of like in that, that part of the graph where we're in collaboration and compromise. And again, we'll talk more about that when we do pink and blue stuff. Gender. So I already have some ideas for you as you're moving forward and want to help you in the communication piece and balancing some of that. Please, ladies, weigh in. Congratulations, by the way.
Yeah, very exciting, Marcy. Glad you decided to. And I think what you say is the baggage is also I think the fact that you've established those relationships, that's a hurdle that someone else would have to cross that
Mhm.
you've kind of already done that. So I think it in a way gives you a head start.
Mhm.
I was going to say, I don't think it's a bad thing to have had those conversations with them because they know now that you can do that. You
Mhm.
know, it's if they get somebody new, it's a gamble about whether or not that person is going to have the backbone to step up in those moments and say the thing that needs to be said, whether that's in a public or a private setting versus, and if that's not what they're looking for,
Mhm. Right. Then it's
that's a
not
different
me.
question. You
Yeah.
know, I have a friend who's working through that right now, and his city manager is a yes man to everyone, and it's not working out very well. So at least now they know you can do that.
Susan, that's a really great point. You're a known commodity, you're a known entity. And if anything, it's fine tuning and tweaking and nuancing when and how to use those magical powers that you've had that have kept you there for 28 years, you know? Um, yeah, use it for good, not evil, right?
We had a community breakfast this morning with a previous city commissioner from about 10 or so years ago that I worked with. And when I saw her this morning, she was saying, how's the process going? And I talked about the previous process and I said, you know, we're getting ready to launch a secondary process and I have decided to apply. And again, I haven't like said those words out loud to people. And so she hugs me. She's so excited. She goes, oh my goodness. She goes, please use me as a reference. And I was like, whoa, like that was pretty cool. Like, to have a previous commissioner offer without any dialogue really to do that. And certainly, you know, she has some relationships. And I think that speaks to something also where you have someone who has sat in that seat as a commissioner who would be supportive and encouraging for me to be in that role. So I thought
It's
that was
pretty
pretty.
cool. Congratulations. I'm going to say to Bama and to Marcy, you know, we talked about doing your one-on-one at the tail or the second half. If you need support on the front half, you know, I would still like to do the second half, but I am open to your scheduling because you have weird things going on in
Okay.
a good way, right?
Okay.
So, okay, well, hopefully we can come back around and address some other things. So, who would like to go next?
I'm just gonna say I have feeling good. So if that's
You
why
what?
I'm a little bit foggy brained today. I'm
Okay,
coming
well,
off.
hopefully, because I feel like Susan's ready to jump in. Hopefully, that inspires you to come up with something. Am I right, Susan?
I can jump in.
You can jump in. Well, okay, so wait, let me ask the group because, like, when I created the collective, it is to help you move forward. If you don't want to use that time for that, okay, we'll do other things. There's never like on my watch, we're never like bored with nothing to do, right? So I offer you that, and it is a vulnerable thing to do, especially because see, I feel like I know all of you, but you're just getting to know each other. And so if it just feels vulnerable or you haven't had a chance to think about it, then we'll talk it out. But I want to serve you is what I'm trying to say. So whatever works best for all of you. Are you ready now?
Yeah,
You ready to dare to go forward?
sure.
Okay. Go for it.
So I actually just got back from vacation. And
Welcome
I'm
back.
just
Oh
now
yeah, you were in Peru.
realizing
Where did you go?
we went to Tahiti.
Tahiti. I knew I was
I'm
Oh,
wondering
just
about
now
it.
realizing on this call that like this shade of oatmeal is not my best shade at the moment. So my apologies. I'm gonna change before my night meeting, I think. But um so it was interesting being in Tahiti and seeing different municipal services. It was wildly fascinating to me. And I really just kind of reappreciated the things that we have for cities, although I do really want a city hall with a wraparound porch at some point in my career. That was really cool to see. Um, but it was just a really good opportunity to kind of reaffirm like the good things and the things that we do have. Um, Heidi, you mentioned earlier, like the notion that we kind of bring our own energy in our office. We've been talking a lot through this transition of you bring your own weather, and you create weather around you. And the opportunity on this trip to kind of recenter and recreate my own weather for a while, I think was big. And also just kind of reflecting as we went through all the different kinds of weather except for snow and cold while we were in Tahiti. Um, Sometimes you also just have to learn to get out in the rain and dance in the backyard and go in the water anyways, even if it is raining, you were going to get wet anyway. So,
Yeah.
um,
Bring your umbrella.
yep, and kind of go through that. So it was interesting just to kind of reflect on that over this past couple weeks and, you know, sit and watch the waves.
Cool.
That's really
So now that you're back, uh, I'm hoping you feel refreshed. Yay for that. And is there something that like are you feeling new vigor for an area of your work? Um,
I think for me, I'm just excited where we're headed and where we're moving forward. Like, we were talking yesterday about like things aren't always firing on all cylinders. And I said, well, they weren't going to because they weren't before.
yeah.
And it's going to take more than 4 months. And we're hiring new staff. And we've had a couple department heads depart or planned departures between now and like the next couple months.
Mhm.
And by Christmas time, and Christmas time has been kind of a marker in this office that because our last full-time manager left in not last November, but the November before. So it was like at this last Christmas, we are like, this Christmas feels a lot different than the last one. And Mercy, I'm thinking you're probably having that right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I said, well, next Christmas is going to feel a lot different too. And hopefully by Christmas time, maybe we are firing on hopefully more cylinders, if not all of them.
Mhm.
And we'll get there. But yeah, it's been exciting to kind of come back and dive back in and again, recognizing the things that we do have as a city. And, you know, it was funny. So if you haven't read anything about Royal Oak, our parking system is one of our ongoing challenges. And our residents hate the current system we have. And it was funny because I got there and I was like, I just learned to park in use a meter system that's entirely in French.
All right.
And if I can do this in a foreign language, I feel like we
Mhm.
should be able to figure it out when it's in English
Mhm.
in our own community.
Mhm.
Shouldn't be that hard. So found levity in those moments too.
Yeah, for sure. So how can we end here? Let me put you back on and our response time. So I'll start with how can we support you? How can we help you going forward?
I think with all of that, it's just if I look sad at some point, be like, do you remember when you got back from Tahiti? And say that, and then I'll hopefully get it. And
Okay. Well, I do have a question for you related to, since like, it's like that's what I do, right? I like pull stuff out. So tell me to back off if it's unwarranted or not welcomed. Uh, the last time we were together, we did, by the way, it was the only time where we have 3 weeks in between. I was going through withdrawal. Um, we were talking about that the model of resolution, the conflict model resolution. Have you seen that play out at all? Granted, you're on vacation, but did it make you think twice about some things? Because I think you said you were strong in competition and accommodation. So anyway, have you been thinking about it at all while on vacation?
no, I didn't think about it so much. I'm not gonna lie, Heidi, while I was on vacation.
I'm kidding. Yeah.
But it was definitely something that like I thought a lot about. We have our two of our department heads right now. We've got one that is trying to protect another staff member as they go through some stuff, and we've got one, they're approaching things, and I think we were able to get them to a great resolution that maybe didn't make everybody happy in the short run, but made people happy in the long run. But it's definitely something like to think about as we work with our commissions and where they're coming from. And kind of if you plot them all out on that scale,
Mhm,
how do you kind of keep them focused more on collaboration,
mhm.
and recognizing that it can't all be competition because then
Yeah,
it won't work
yeah.
out. So
Well, and if you're I speak from this myself, if you're an impatient person, it is like, forget it, enough. And then it's easy to go to competition or accommodation, like, fine, you have it your way, or no, we're gonna do it this way, right? It's so easy to go there because of that elusive time element, which in reality is really fakes us out, doesn't it? Like with the timer going. So, yeah. Have you done anything differently about your own stuff? Well, because part of this is that just starting to look inward and think about ourselves and those limitations and, the beliefs that get in our way. Have any of those started percolating a little bit more for you?
I think for me, like especially kind of post trip, it's maybe this is the post trip bliss.
Mm,
But it's definitely kind of just seeing that funner side again.
mm,
That as you
mm.
kind of go through, I have so much empathy for you, Mars, because I was just there. And it really sucks to be an interim land. Um, so I would have cried if I had to start over like you. I think I would have had a
Mm.
very tearful moment. But um, I think it's seeing that funner side on the other side of the really sucky part. It does get better.
And you bring up a really great point, which is being one or the other isn't a happy place or a good place at work. It is having that blend of your whole self. And that does involve, this peaceful, ah, kind of, and we started off with the right? Meditation. So anyway, welcome back. I'm glad you're feeling some relief of stress. And I wish you great things as you move forward. And please think about how you want to use us. So, did anybody else have like one quick comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Susan, like just listening to you talk about sort of the reflection that you give to everyone else around you at the office, the perspective that you give, like, you know what? It wasn't great 100% before, so we can't expect that now. We're working towards it. And this whole idea of the analogy of like the weather and you get through the storm, right? To get to the sun and the rainbow that, you have to have the rain in order to get the rainbow and like that whole like concept and really presence. It's so encouraging. And I hope that you feel like, and you see yourself as someone who sort of is that nucleus right now for your organization and for your teammates, because the things that you say, it clearly demonstrates that's really the role and the pillar that you are.
Awesome. Cool. Okay, who's next? Heather or Crystal?
I will cede my time.
Really? Okay. Heather.
Nothing bubbling up enough.
Okay. Heather, it's on you, girl.
All right, fair enough. So the last time we met, I've been dealing with a lot of staffing issues. I have one staff member, an operator, that's exhibiting signs of dementia, so he has been placed on FMLA. So I'm getting through those hurdles and encouraging staff on how to move forward. I have staff in the office that are transitioning to potential other employment opportunities, which I'm excited for them, but I have a lot of shuffling to take care of. There's some opportunities with staff in other departments to do some transitioning, so I'm dealing with that with my city manager. We have facilities that will be opening here in the next few weeks with the spring. We have an outdoor community pool. And so we have a lot of challenges with that right now. We have a lot of political things that are happening in our community in terms of expectations and um, things that are above the ceiling to what I can achieve for what is being requested. So getting through those hurdles. Next week I go to APWA conference with my city manager. A little bit, I don't want to say I'm concerned about it, but going to a conference with another male is usually one of those like tiptoey kind of things, which it shouldn't be because my city manager and I were like brother and sister. We've just gotten along forever, but there's always like those little stigmatisms when you go away with somebody of the other sex. So dealing with that, got to go to Lansing tomorrow. Like it's just everything's picking up. Oh, and my daughter turns 16 on Thursday. So
Oh, congratulations on that.
yeah, so lots of things happening professionally and personally, and just trying to navigate through all of the fun stuff of having work-life balance, basically.
Right,
So
right. Can I jump in?
yeah,
So I'm curious about, I'll start with the conference. When
yeah.
you talk about the traveling with a male, is that your concern, his concern, the concern of what others will think? Like who do you, pardon my French, who do you give a shit about knowing about this?
Yeah, no, but I think that's a very valid question. I've been in this role for a number of years, and I have gone through the drama and the little, you
Rumor
know,
mill?
stuff like that when it's just doing my job. It's just unfortunately one of those things of being a woman in higher authority that, other women have this opportunity to kind of make all of these kind of rumors. Not that I give a shit, but it inevitably always ends up happening. So everything that I've got going on in my professional life and my personal life, knowing my past experiences and knowing what I've got to go through next week, it's like, oh Jesus, I got to add one more thing to my plate when I can.
Well, I want to address something else, but I would love you all to weigh in for Heather in terms of how to handle that or some thoughts or perspective. What I first want, by the way, may the force be with you regarding your daughter. And then the other thing is regarding staff issues. Is there a theme in what you're dealing with that I or we can help you with? Is there like something tangible that we can give you some help on?
In regards to the staffing,
Yeah.
no, it's really just all over the charts.
Mhm.
When you manage so many people, there's many different personalities and many different personal challenges that people are going through. I got one operator whose wife hates it here. She wants to move back to California, and they've been
I see.
bickering for like years. So, I mean, it's just like all over the
Gotcha.
place.
Gotcha. So then it comes back to actually how I started this talking about, it feels like it's all that stuff out there. And the only thing you do have control over is all this in here, right?
Right.
And so are you able to, and I say this cautiously because I don't want to pretend like I'm in your shoes.
Sure.
But I guess what I'm saying is I hope that you are able to find time to balance. I hope that you are able to stand in your power, protect yourself from others thinking and their projections onto you. And I do open it up to everyone to say what you have to say.
Heather, with the transitions that you have with staffing for staff that is remaining and the rest of the team, how do they typically adapt to staffing transitions? Do you have individuals who sort of step in to be a support? Do you like what do those dynamics look for you in your operations?
Yeah, I mean, I have a number of different divisions, and each division has a good leader for each one. So that part, I feel like there's support in terms of anything adjusting or new staff or what have you and training opportunities. The the individuals that reached out to me here in the office areas, they want to aspire to see themselves to have, whether it be different roles, different titles, different responsibilities, transitions. So I'm just trying to navigate that so that way they feel supported here in the office area. Because let's face it, we're living in a world where if you don't make at least $60,000, you're struggling if you're a single household income, right? So, I mean, go to a freaking grocery store and I mean, I hear it all the time from my staff and I experience it. I'm sure you do as well, but it's a challenge. And so a lot of people are getting opportunities sent to them and they're exploring them. And I acknowledge that, but I feel as though I have a responsibility to try and make adjustments so that way they feel comfortable staying in their roles. I mean, I'm going to make an assumption here, but Bama, she said that somebody reached out to her and asked for her to consider employment. I get them all the time, so I'm confident that everybody else does too. When money is an issue, which it is for a lot of people right now, there's nothing really much more I can do than try to make some adjustments to make them comfortable.
Are you feeling supported?
Oh
'Cause
yeah,
you're taking care of everyone, right?
yeah. My boss, like I said, we're like brother and sister. I mean, that half this week I'm not even going to be here because I got to take care of a 16-year-old's wild dreams.
Any other thoughts?
I can speak a little to the conference stuff. So I have quite a few, I've worked with males for most of my career and have gone to conferences with them for years. And I've never thought twice about it. I think, to be totally honest, I'm a person who doesn't give a shit about what people think. So I think that's part of it, is just like, I don't even make space for that, for those gossips or anything like that. So I would just say try as much as you can just to not, people are going to, you have no control over what people are going to think. And so you just put it doesn't matter. It means nothing.
And if anything, I think this is an opportunity in a really subtle way for you to not step in your power, but be standing in your power and to be staying on balance. Because there are people that want to knock you down. That's just that's just reality. And so it's you gaining, yeah, it's the power thing. And actually, that is kind of what's going to lead us into this next section. Any other comments or thoughts before I flip over to this portion? Yes, Brahma.
Yes, Heather, I think going to that conference is a good thing because don't worry about what people think. They always have opinions which you can't control. You can get some information from them, from the people at the conference on how to handle it. You can talk to your boss and come up with solutions. So it'll be a good time to get away from the office and really seek some answers. You'll be surprised how many people will be sharing how they handled such crisis.
Terrific. Okay, cool. All right, so let's go to my magic camera. It was funny. I was having a conversation with Emily and I was showing her something, and I might have even shown her the same model. And I turned on my camera and she was like, oh. She goes, do you do this with them? I'm like, of course. She's like, oh, I really like it. So we're going to turn on the magic camera. That's what she was calling it. Okay. All right. So do you remember this idea of core self, right? And then this is the private self, and this is the public self. Oh, by the way, do we need to take a bathroom break? Do you want to take a bio break before we dive into this?
Yeah, I can move my legs.
Okay. All right. I have so many questions about that. Okay. So let's pause the recording and we'll come. Okay, so we remember this model, right? And and stop me if you don't remember the model. I'll go into more detail, but I think you remember the model because the challenge is this distance here between our core, who we are at our authentic self, and this public self. Now, it could be the private self. I think I'm sure I've shared at some point. I had one woman who had a really crappy home life. And so she said, her private self was out here and her public self was here. So for her, she was happier at work and more herself than she was at home. And Crystal, that might resonate with you. It resonates for me. And when she said it, that made sense. So we'll go back to private. Okay. So that being said, since the program, maybe not so much for Obama, sorry. I've had another thought, which is, okay, let's see if I can do this on the fly. She's not going to be pretty here, this lady, my stick figure. Let's give her a waist and we'll give her some boobs. They're high up though, way perkier than mine. So,
I think I look better there than me, personally.
so I think of this, if she is at the core, right? And this is the private self, and this is the public self. If she can stay in her own power, in her own sense of self, that's where, she's got the smile on her face, the happiest. But it's when we start to worry about what other people are thinking, when we're getting outside of ourselves and having this, I'm calling it a horizontal energy, because it is reaching out here into human life. And to me, this is also, I use the word ego, but I hesitate because ego already, like makes people go like, oh no, it's not my ego. That isn't what's going on. And that's exactly the trigger that I'm pushing intentionally, right? So everything that is on this level, what is so-and-so saying about me? What does so-and-so think about me? And to some degree, yeah, it is good for us to be aware of what others are thinking. We can't totally turn that off. But when we allow it to affect our decision making about ourselves, what is this? Oh, if I just do this, they'll be so happy. Okay. Does it make me happy to make them happy? Okay. But if I'm making them happy because I just have learned to stop making myself happy, different issue. So be wary and aware and conscious and conscientious of that horizontal energy. And so when we talk about, that connection, it is more of a vertical energy. Even saying it, I just felt like my own little connection, just using those words, because it is a daily thing for me. This is the energy that I'm trying to maintain. And when I am in my own core self, things just work out better. Not just for me, but how I approach the world. Right? So, no, really? Okay. I feel called to talk about like a really weird issue as an example. I was recently talking to someone on Mother's Day, actually, and they let it slip. It was a 40+ year secret that older brothers had abused them or molested them. And by hanging on to that secret, their secret, a little bit for her because there was some shame involved, right? And of course, I didn't judge that. It was more like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you've been hanging on to this so long. The point isn't her issue. The point is the cost of protecting other people at her own expense to her psyche. So we talked, and like I said, it slipped. And I says, well, who have you talked about, regarding this? And she said, you're the only one. Okay. And then I got texts for the rest of the day. I might actually sleep tonight. I'm so, happy. And because I told her, and it's a family member, a distant family member. And I said, know that you always have family in my mom and my sisters. You're always welcome to be with us. And I'm getting texts all day saying, like, I feel so free. I feel so relieved. I feel so grateful to have family back again. And so that's an extreme example. But I want you to hear that we make those decisions all day long about how to keep the peace for other people instead of handling in a balanced way, because we're so used to that binary mindset. We're so used to, I'm going to say something and upset the apple cart, or I'm going to just keep silent. And we have to keep pushing ourselves to have a skill set and a mindset to open up those boundaries so that we can learn how to handle things in a peaceful way that isn't so imbalanced or so binary, right? So for instance, there's something else I wanted to bring up, which is being right versus being happy. That's another version of living in this ego space. And I'm going to turn off the camera at this moment. Okay. That's another example of being in that ego space where what is it? What is it we learn? It's important to our ego. There's something inside that says, I'm not a good person, or I am not enough, or I am not worthy if I haven't proved that I'm right. Because we have this mindset that knowledge is everything, or that I know everything. It's from that paradigm that we sometimes go down this path of needing to be right. So then the question I ask you, what's more important, to be right or to be happy? Because sometimes they're mutually exclusive, meaning I'm sure we all know people whose relationships have suffered because they're so firmly rooted in their position, right? And are unable to keep the relationship. So then the question is, don't we all have a right to our own perspective? And if we have a right to our own perspective, then who's to say you're wrong? You get to be you. You get to think your way. My situation, my circumstances, and my life affects how I think. I try to stay open to possibilities. I try to, but I do lean here and there in terms of my beliefs. And those are based on my experience. So you get to have yours. And it's ridiculous to think that we're all going to have the same perspective. Thank God, right? So I challenge you and others with whom you work to get out of that bubble of I'm the only one that knows, or follow me because I know I am right. That is purely an egoic perspective. And as a leader, more people will follow you because you are fair and just and credible and open than because you're right. So if you remember last time we met, we talked about the comfort zone model. And when I was working with this team last week, I did a brief little exercise and I could tell There was a lot because they had a lot of, although we didn't do the conflict model, they probably had a ton of competition and accommodation, conflict resolution style. And they were, and on on disc, they were all like up in the D quadrant. So there was a lot, even for the guys that were healthy, there was just a lot of that. And where am I going with this mindset? So I had the panic zone, comfort zone model set, the stretch zone model set up. And I was showing them a simple exercise. And I'll describe it to you now because I think it might be interesting for you to think of it that way. So I stood in the middle with one of the players. And I did tell them in advance what I was going to do. So it wasn't shocking, but no one else knew. And I said, what do we as leaders? So if you can imagine that. So what do we do as leaders to help people get out of their comfort zone? So there we are standing in the middle of the comfort zone. And I pushed her because that's what we do. We're like, hey, go do this. And I don't even know if you all do that, but that is the tendency for leaders. Like, I'm here in my office, go do that, go take care of that. It's like pushing people out of their comfort zone. And sure enough, guess where she landed? In the panic zone. And she kind of toppled and got and it was like, oh, she knew she was going to get pushed, but she didn't know that I was going to give her a good shove, which is always so fun. I should have done it to that one guy, honestly. And so later in the conversation, I was standing in the middle with her and I just held her hand, we held hands and I was talking to the group and I said, so how do you help people get out of the comfort zone? And as I was talking, the leader, just stepped into the stretch zone. And I didn't say a word to her about it, but she automatically came into the stretch zone with me. And you could see the lights going on. And so when we are in that vertical energy versus the horizontal energy, it's much easier. And we're stretching, right? And we're leading by example. It's a lot easier for people to follow us than when we are standing in, because they see it. We're standing in ego in that comfort zone, and we're right and not as healthy as we could be. Any comments about that concept? Paula?
Actually, Heidi, I think you mentioned a word, I am enough. And that kind of resonated with me because I'm always trying to improve myself or trying to emulate somebody else. But having said that, over the years, I have kind of stretched my core a little bit out. I only had the opposite effect. I felt like they were pushing me into a tinier core. Because they will tell me, stay in your lane, don't reach out. But even if I don't reach out, department heads reach out to me for advice, for all kinds of information, because they will try to call my boss. It takes way too long. So they will call me, and so I can get that for you so that they can continue working on whatever they are working on. So everything became a negative. I kept, then I kind of ignored that, and then they started writing me up. Yes. So that's when I took your class, I think I had to be true to myself. Who am I?
Yeah.
And so I had to kind of end my career in a good note. I gave them the notice. I told them, why, that I would like to grow, not shrink. Having said that, Heidi, is our objective is to stay in the core, or as we get comfortable to kind of, you had the comfort zone, the stretch zone, and the fear zone.
Yeah.
I kind of pull myself out? Because now this one is a little bit, that's my comfort zone. Like,
okay, you know what? That's a great question. And I want to make sure we're not confusing the concepts.
Okay.
Because I did confuse them for you a little bit, to be fair. So the core is more about versus staying in that comfort zone. I do not want you to stay in your comfort zone.
Oh,
I want you to stay in your core. And the
okay.
core is who we are at the heart of ourselves. So when I look at like there's a motivation survey, and one of my motivations out of the five out of the 14, there's like five that are what I would call your core. And those are things that you need to be a whole person to feel very satisfied and fulfilled. I've had multiple leaders who everything's going well, they're getting through their staffing issues, and yet there's still a problem. And then I identify it as it's because they're not living to their true motivations. And those always seem to be regarding extreme physical, there's a word, physical, basically people who really thrive on physical activity. That's what it is, activity. And so once they have that awareness and we go through that assessment, they're like, oh, and they start running and biking and getting back into that part of themselves. So physical activity is important to me, but it is not one of my core needs. So for me, a core need is power. Power isn't about power over, it is achievement, it's growth. Obviously, you know that that's a thing for me, right? So if I'm not growing or having a chance to be introspective, I get stale and not myself and sad, right? And then another aspect for me is independence. If I don't have independence, then I am not my best and core self. So all that to say, to answer your question, Bama, understanding who you are at your core is critical for being your best version of yourself, but also the best leader because you fill yourself up and then you can radiate out to others. If you don't take care of yourself, you are just like a dry sponge, trying to like help others and you just don't have it in you. Um, the model, the core, the comfort zone model is not about staying in the comfort zone. It is absolutely in stretch, but just knowing who you are. For instance, if I tried to stretch by being an accountant, I would be in panic and no one would be served. It's just not going to happen, right? So it's knowing who you are that's so important. And yes, life is so much sweeter when we have the capacity to go into stretch, come back, get some comfort, and then go back out. I was in New Mexico a week and a half ago with my son, and we did some hiking that was definitely on the edge of panic zone for me. We didn't know it, but we were in the highest elevation in New Mexico, and we did the last 1,000 feet. What was I thinking? I'm not even a weekend hiker. I'm not a vacation. I'm a vacation hiker, which I don't take enough vacations to be in shape for that. And he's like standing there going like, it's okay, mom. I'm just like watching the nature. And I'm sitting there going, that was panic zone on the edge of, stretch. But when we were done, it was fantastic. And that's because one of my core needs is adventure and quite frankly, being with my son. It was all really good. That having been said, yes. Does that answer your question?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
Thank you
good.
very much. Yes.
Okay. I also have on my list delegation. And that is really because Crystal, you brought it up the last time we talked about delegation. And I also wrote down management, giving a task, not all or nothing. So that idea of binary leadership or binary perspective is really, honestly, if you can see things through that lens, you'll be really surprised at how much you can already start to fix because you go into the middle. Very often, okay, I'm going to give you a task. I'm going to give you something that's going to challenge you. And that's our version of pushing someone, right? We're going to give them this task, but maybe not give them enough instruction or not enough checkpoints along the way or not enough, whatever it is that they need to help them through the learning process. So it's not an all or nothing, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So when it comes to delegation, know that many people, I hear it I hear it from clients, not so much the leaders, but like the people that work for those leaders. They're excited usually to take on the challenge, but what do you think gets in the way from an ego standpoint? Their belief in themselves, their confidence of if they can do it. Not so, even men, I mean, men won't say that, but there's still like imposter syndrome thing going on, right? So when we delegate, know that there's almost always an excitement, truly, even if they're denying it, there's an excitement about taking on a new task, learning something new, challenging myself, and quite frankly, opening up my skill set and benefiting my resume. Now, depending on where they sit in the comfort zone model, will determine how, and to some degree, female, male, how excited they are to be uncomfortable. So it's your gift to them as a leader is to let them know that you'll be alongside. I'm going to give this to you. Why don't you come in and check in at this point? We'll see if you're on track. I'm trusting all will be good. And then we'll tweak. It's not a big deal. Like allow people when they first get a new task to not be perfect. As you said, Bama, with the I am enough. They don't need to feel that's, I think, the uncomfortable reality or the uncomfortable truth is that as leaders, it's like so good to get it off of our plate once we do give it up, give it up. It is to their benefit. However, would you do it with your child? Would you say, all right, dinner's on you tonight? No. You might check in, and I'm thinking, of course, not a 4-year-old, but I'm thinking a little older children. Um, do we have the right groceries? What recipe do you think you want to do? And yes, it's more time consuming. However, I used this example, I think last time, the more in the beginning you can make sure that they're aware at every step, the more capability that has grown. But it's time. Time is going to be your enemy in terms of being a good leader versus a great leader. And the more you can stay balanced in doing what's right in your heart versus what I have time for, the better leader that you will be. So that's enough about that topic. The other thing I wanted to share is, let me go to the camera again. Okay. So we did not talk in 1650 about right left brain. And it just wasn't part of the topic or the curriculum. And I want to bring it up now because given the teams that you're working with and the people on staff in your city governments, this is going to be coming up. So why not help you with this perspective? So just like, I don't know, what assessment might we have done during 1650 where, well, even the example last week of conflict resolution, you can see with that model, it's like, oh, no wonder. Okay, so let's look through the right left lens, which makes me laugh because people talk about right left brain, and yet the right is on the left and the left is on the right. Doesn't that bother anybody?
Nope. I literally take my trash cans and it says trash on it, and then cans, and I put it trash and then cans.
Okay. And actually, it's funny because I don't know that what I should have done is had a picture loaded to show you. I don't know. I'm not going to be able to draw this. Well, okay. So on the left, I think of left brain. I think of left brain people or perspective. And by the way, if you go online and look at, is left brain left brain, right brain real, they'll say no, because they're assuming we only use half our brain. And of course, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we have a perspective that's right dominant or left dominant. So I think of left brain people. I guess I could do a better job with my three-dimensional, but you'll get it, right? As train cars. And and the reason is because in order to get from the back of the car to the front of the car, no matter how many cars, it could be 100 cars, it could be 20 cars, it could be 3 cars. We always have to start from one end, walk through car one, car two, car three. So I'm going to belabor the point. If I'm going through 10 cars, car one, car two, car three, car four, car five, car six, car seven, car eight, car nine, car 10, and there I am. What do we know about that process? It's repeatable. It is consistent. It's a process. I can count on it, and it's lengthy. So if I want to get to car 20, I'm starting at car one. Again, repeatable. I can count on this process, but I am taking time to go through each car every single time and do my checkpoints, right? With right brain, I think of right brain as a snow globe. So in the snow globe, I have access to all the same information as the train car, but it's disorganized. So you might go, oh man, then, left brain is the way to go because it's organized. Well, that's the way our world functions. That's what we're told is important. I will say with the right brain, you have access to snowflake number 1, snowflake number 100, snowflake 26, and snowflake 1333. You have access to all those snowflakes and they come in together and it's like, okay, it's 4 pieces of information. And if I blurt those out, somebody over here is like, seriously, what the hell? Because it doesn't make sense. There's not a lot of unity in those statements. And so a right brain person can look like a little, quite frankly, I heard one speaker slash author, Jeffrey Fried, he wrote a book called Left Brain or Right Brain Kids in a Left Brain World. And he said that he had all kinds of clients, gifted, challenged, ADD, so on and so forth. And he said what they all had in common is that they were right-brained and they had a pocketbook to be able to afford them, quite frankly. So all that to say, well, does that mean that this is the correct one and this is the not correct one? Not at all. Matter of fact, this one processes information, doesn't mean they're smarter, processes information 3 to 4,000 times faster than this one. So we're talking probably more intuitive thinking and more problem solving in terms of like quick action. And this one is known for being creative, and it's because they are visual for the most part, more visual than a left brain person. And by the way, there's whole, right? There's 50-50. This is the spectrum. Oops, not one. This is the continuum. And there are plenty of people that are right here. I'm right here. So I'm whole-ish, not a-hole-ish, just whole-ish, leaning to the right. So the right brain is more my perspective, but I can cross this line pretty, and that's quite a lot of people. But you know who I'm talking about when it's someone who's over here, my son, and over here, my daughter. Now, both of them have moved a little bit over time just because life and the skill sets that they learn, so on and so forth. Like I heard gaming actually helps with a more right brain perspective. So all that to say, an example, we're sitting at dinner This is, I don't know, 15 years ago, 10 years ago. And I said, okay, I'm going to say a word, house. What'd you get? My daughter, oh, it's a black, white house with black shutters and there's the driveway. Here's the dog house, and, the car that's in the driveway. And like in that split second, she had a visual, and now you can see it. Think of the information she just conjured up within seconds, 2 to 3,000 times faster, right? My then husband, who's probably right here, he's nostalgic, and he started describing his childhood home. I'm also right here, and I had a house, but it wasn't nearly as descriptive as hers. And then we were laughing and joking and eating dinner. And then my son says, well, what if you just saw the word house? Well, you don't belong to us. That's what that tells us. Right? And so understand this is no big deal, but we need to understand the differences, because if this manager tells this person to go do a task. So at a meeting, as an example, see, I just did it. I just shifted in the middle of my thought. This person needs the overall context. They need the big picture in order to engage. So if you don't tell them what algebra is for, they will never understand algebra because they're looking at that perspective. This person needs the sequence and they need an agenda. How are we going to get to wherever we're going? So for this person as an example, math is great because they don't ever tell you where you're going to use it. They just tell you to learn it. Learn step A, learn step B, learn step C, learn step D, and then someday you'll apply it. Good luck. And they're okay with that. My son says, because his name is Matthew, he's good at math, right? And my daughter couldn't figure algebra out to save her life until she was almost through all that pain and misery that we went through. And I found a right brain perspective on algebra online. And she was like, oh my gosh, if I had seen that, I might have understood it from the very beginning. And it was a scale, a visual scale with little pieces on both sides, 3 blue men, 2 blue men, 1 white figurine, 3 over, and they took 1 off and then the scale went imbalance. And so like, how do you balance it again? She was like, is that all it is? Yeah, pretty much. But it took that visual for her to see that. So again, go back to the manager who says, okay, go do this. Well, how do I do it? Well, you just, you want to get to this point. You're just looking for these signs. Here's the gut feeling and this person's like, I don't even know where to begin. So they're in panic zone really because of the difference in this perspective. Or the other way around, you have this person who's giving all the steps of how to do something, and this person cannot follow those steps. They want to understand, where am I trying to go with this? And I'll figure it out along the way, and I'll use my intuition. I'm not going to follow my steps. So my best example, I was going to Ann Arbor probably twice a month to do some training at Pfizer for 2 years. And I was staying at a friend's place in Ann Arbor. And actually I was working for her at the time, not working for her, but regarding Pfizer. And I had written down directions on how to get to Pfizer from her house. I did every single time. I had my little directions, turn right at this street, turn left at that street. Well, one day I didn't have my directions. 2 years I had been doing this. I could not I like pulled over, panicked because I realized I didn't have my directions. I don't do right left directions. I have a northwest south east compass in my head, and it gives me a visual. So I pulled over, I looked at my map, and I was like, oh, okay. I never needed a map again. I never needed directions again because I had looked at the visual perspective, and now I had capability to get there on my own. That makes sense? So I hope I didn't belabor the point. this is just really more important than we realize, because I've seen one in particular, the person I worked with that was probably the most right-brained was being written up because she didn't follow directions very well. She was a manager. Her manager, the director, was this. And this person thought she was flighty. So she came in, immediately identified that she had this right left brain issue. We did a lot of visualization around that to basically, because they're disorganized, right? To clean out her brain. And when she came in the next time, she was like a different person. She was calm. And all we had done, we actually made ice racks in her brain. She organized things. I know it sounds crazy, but it's visualization. It was a technique. It worked great. And she ended up leaving the organization because they were too slow for her once she got a handle on her own right brain perspective. And what was this woman managing this woman, it turned around to this woman starting to manage this woman, and it was hierarchically not relevant anymore. So, all that to say, this is right left brain. Can you each, I'm going to turn off the camera. Can you each identify someone in your life who's way left or way right? And then do you know what you yourself probably are? Jump in.
Yeah, my daughters. My oldest daughter, Penelope, soon to be 16. She's extreme left,
Okay.
very
Rigid.
methodical,
Mm-hmm.
big into math, is very into playing guitar, harmonica. Like, it's got a purpose, it's got a sequence, and she can follow it.
And music is, you would think music is a really creative thing, and they say some of the best musicians are very left brain.
Yeah, she's extreme left. And then my youngest, Valerie, is extreme right. She is bouncing all over the charts. Penelope would get in the car, they go drive, and everything's got to be all set, ready to go. Valerie jumps on the golf cart, and she don't even look for a tree.
And I hope as a parent, you understand and see the value in both. And it's advocating, because we live in such a left brain world, it's really easy to honor that. Well, okay. I go into conferences, my daughter's in 4th grade, and the teacher says, hey, Madison got a 98% on the science test. And we were like, woohoo, all right, that's fantastic. She goes, yeah. But, and I said, why did she, why was that so beneficial for her? Well, we had stations. She got to go in and do the experiments. So very involved and engaged, and, a different perspective. And okay, like, why does your face look like that? Well, she's getting a C in the unit. Why is she getting a C in the unit? Well, because it was an open book test and she forgot her notes. So she got an E in that component. So she did so well without notes. She got a 98% and she got a C in the unit because the qualifiers for the unit one was organization, not her thing. And so it's, and the left brain person says, yeah, she should learn organization. And the right brain person is like, that is so unfair. So anyway, okay, well, and I'm sure as a mom, I love that you see that in both of them. If you're interested, there is that book, Jeffrey Fried, Right Brain Kids in a Left Brain World. If your children are this way and you want to advocate, whether it's in school or just at home, it's an interesting perspective on the right brain. Anyone else noticing people, whether it's at home or someone at work, that's left or right brain?
My son is a right brain. He's extremely disorganized, and I get called. I used to be called by the teacher, and his desk used to be all the papers shoved in there, and so I had to work with him. He's of course. But I think I thought I was left brain because I accounting.
Yeah.
But when you said that if people give you if people say turn right, turn left, I can never get that. I have to see a map
Mm.
and look at, and I'm a visual. So I may be 50-50 or
Yeah.
maybe more
Yep.
towards.
Yep. Well, it's funny because when I was writing this down, I was thinking of you, and I thought, she doesn't strike me as a hardcore left brain. So I concur my perspective. So
You.
yeah. Anybody else? Is that helpful? Like, does that help you in terms of managing others? And so when you go into a meeting, as an example, someone who's left brain is going to give the agenda. And then your right brain people are going to be lost and vice versa. So when it's really important when you in a leadership role is to start being more inclusive of, and it's funny, it's a funny use of that word, but it is being more inclusive of these diverse perspectives. And we're talking in this particular instance, right, left brain. Or last time it would have been, our comfort zone tendencies. So, okay. That being said, I said I would leave the last 15 minutes for open whatever. If you have questions or touching base on something we talked about, it's really just a free for all, which would make a left brainer very uncomfortable right now. So. By the way, have you all self-identified as left or right brain? I know you did, Bama, obviously.
I'd say I'm more on the right. If you looked at my filing system, if I showed it to anybody that's a left brain person, they'd probably shoot me.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Susan? Oh, yeah. Is your microphone on? Oh,
Doesn't look muted, but I can't.
I know it doesn't look muted, but I can't hear you. Can anyone else hear her?
No.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
There you go. That was a good solution.
Just mute and unmute yourself.
Do you lean to the right at all?
I'm probably more right a little bit, but there's definitely moments where I can be
Yeah.
a little left brain, and it's interesting to think about your different staff and
Well,
your council dynamic.
And the reason I even just said right is because even how you fix the microphone issue, because I do that too, where it's like, it's called an experimenter learning style, where I just started hitting things like, let's try this, let's do that. And then it's not repeatable. Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately. Okay, cool. Crystal?
I think I'm probably more on the right, but I think I'm pretty 50-50.
Cool.
I think when things get a little bit too chaotic, I then go back to a very linear,
Sure. And
I try to be able to.
That is the beauty. Like, honestly, with most of these assessments, there's usually one or two where, like, I'm more, not me, but people in general are more extreme. God help you if you are extreme on all of them, because then you got some issues, right? For the most part, this is going to be one where people are on the 50-50 or 60-40 range. The person who's high or low severely, they do have, just like if you're that way with a different assessment, that's where you're going to have to do your work and adjust and learn other perspectives. And for this one, obviously, if you're the 40 to 60, 60-40, then yay for you. How about you, Marcy?
Yeah, I fall within that schizophrenic range of both. It depends on the I'm like, okay, give me all the pieces and here's what we're gonna do, or I also can be like super organized and this goes here and it needs to be just like this. But I think part of that also is most people would think of it as the left, but it's actually very visual, right?
It's and quite frankly, it's a smart person coping mechanism.
Oh, what does that mean? Tell me more.
Well, I know that I don't function well in chaos because it just adds to the chaos.
Yeah.
So as a child, I have a picture we had this closet and, we had all of our stuff on the closet floor. And I would self-designate like, okay, sisters, we're going to clean the closet today. And I would pull everything out and I would start organizing and like stacking and changing. And I would look over and my sister would be standing there playing with the first thing that we pulled out of the closet. I was like, ah. Part of it was my maturity. But it was also like my need for organization,
Yeah.
which
Yes.
it's totally a coping mechanism for me. I am not naturally tidy, but I have a really clean house because it gives me peace.
Yes. Yes. I see that.
Yeah. So, okay. Was that helpful? Again, I'm just trying to gauge what works for you all. I want to make sure that we're honoring your time, but also giving you little tidbits that will help you in your leadership roles. So I don't want to hear about me, but I do kind of need some feedback. So are we going down the right path with this balance between the two? Or would you like more one and versus and or the other?
I like the
I think
format
it,
working.
Okay.
yeah,
Okay,
me
good.
too.
Good, good.
M-
Okay,
Me
yay.
too.
Okay, cool. Okay, so in our last 13 minutes, if you could all go around and kind of give not your concluding thoughts, it makes it sound like, after that you're dead to me. But again, how can we help you? What is it that maybe you have, even from our conversation, you're inspired to work on this week? Or what do you want to be more mindful of? I would love for you to have an intention as you're walking away. So, on that note, let's see, there's 5. Let's do 2 minutes per person. I know you're like, I have to fill up 2 minutes. No, you don't have to fill up 2 minutes. But who wants to go first? We could start from the back and go to the front, which would mean Heather. Ready?
Sure.
Okay. Ooh, wasn't expecting that.
I didn't know no was an option. No, my takeaway is definitely our last piece of conversation, which is the left right. I think that's going to help me in providing some options for my staff in terms of what they're looking for and how I can make them feel more comfortable in their roles and just work with them in that capacity.
Amen.
Like I said, lots of transitions happening.
Yeah. And if you have a sense of someone being on one end or the other, you can adjust your directions, right? Here's what we're trying to accomplish. How are you going to go about doing it? That's for the right brain person versus for the left brain person. What are the steps that you need to follow? And then you can insert some, right? So it's just helping them think through whatever you're asking them to do. Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, who's next? Turn that off.
I will go
Okay.
next.
Yes.
2 things: developing my core self,
Hmm.
my authentic core, and then which I have an idea, but I want to write it down. The second one is I'm so glad about this left brain, right brain, because I think my boss was actually a left brain and I was a right brain, and I will go in there and start just at random, and he has said, time out, back up. So now I know.
Yes. Well, I love that you're having the awareness, because the last time you had an awareness about the accommodation piece and how you could understand why people were dumping stuff on you because you were asking for it. So that is exactly how you do it, Bama. You accumulate all this information, all these little pieces, and then you get this view of yourself and you're like, oh, I see.
Makes sense.
And then when you are with other people, you have power in that you know how to receive them and you also know how to give back to them, right? You can look outside of yourself because you know yourself well.
Yeah.
So I love
Thank
it.
you.
Yay. Okay. Isn't that great? They give you 2 minutes and then I talk during it. Yeah. Okay. Who's next?
I can go. I think that in listening today and participating in dialogue, I find that I'm typically pretty self-aware of, my own preferences or styles,
Mhm.
and also to sort of be able to assess what I interpret others to be. But I think today just sort of lifted up to be more intentional about where others are at, and especially when you're working with a cross sector of a number of different individuals, and
Amen.
making it so that it fits at least at some point within that moment for each of them,
Mm-hmm.
which is, to be really intentional about understanding that, and taking the time to do it. It's
Yes.
all about time, right? Time,
Yeah,
being
yeah, yeah.
intentional.
And
So,
it's funny because once you let go of the time and you take care of setting the foundation and doing it right, you oddly gain all this time back because now you've prevented issues from happening
mhm,
because you've done it the right way at the foundational level. So
sure.
it's a pretty cool thing. Um, okay, so I have a question for you in the 38 seconds.
Mhm.
Um, do you need support at all as you're going through the interview process? Do you need us to cheerlead you or what's going on?
Um, you know, I I don't know quite yet.
Okay.
So, I have some starting points, very specific, not just to just general interview, but very specific to like me and where I'm at in my role and the organization, that Rebecca has said, hey, you're going to want to look at these particular things and
Mhm.
focus on them, or lift up moments of them. Um, I think that I am going to have to get in the mindset of just interview and support on how to focus or address things that maybe that I haven't yet done, but certainly been exposed to, like how to address those moments, like figuring out, because I don't have actually a lot of interview experience because of being in the organization. So
So
any insider
so,
perspective from the group
so in the
regarding
interest of time,
that.
at the end, if you want to stay for a few more minutes, I
Yeah.
can give you some, or
Okay.
anybody that wants to stay, I can give you some coaching,
Yeah, that'd
not
be
coaching,
great.
I'm sorry, some interview
Great.
prep. And Bama, we kind of did that when you were talking to that other city. So
Thanks.
got you. Okay. Crystal, Susan.
Crystal, do you want to go?
Sure. Again, sorry,
Wow.
I'm pretty foggy headed today. I do think the left brain, right brain is very helpful. I think sometimes when I think of the way I would do things, and then sometimes things don't come um like natural. Like I don't understand why people interact the way that they do, or why they,
Sure.
why they chose to do it this way. And I think aware enough that people are just different, and I really try to figure out what it is that what their strengths are, and how to work with them and help empower them to work their best. But this is just another tool for that. And it's helpful because yeah, just the way some people's brains work. When they don't work like yours, it's
Yeah.
hard to understand, you know, you did what? Like why did you
Yeah,
do it?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Uh,
instead of applying judgment, right? Like, what were you thinking? It's like,
mhm.
oh, I get what you were doing. And in one of the classes, I don't remember what year it was. It was somewhere in the 2020, 2021, maybe 19. I remember someone, we were in a U shape and someone was sitting in the back and she said, "So why are we doing all this?" And we talked about it. And then that person said, "Oh, this allows us to give grace to others." And it was like, oh, you could hear the room hallelujahing because that's it. It allows us to stand back and go, yeah, gotcha. It's cool. You
Yeah,
get to
it's
be you.
helpful.
Yeah, you get to be you. Okay, cool. Did you miss not talking in the beginning?
Me,
Yeah.
I think I'm just so like out.
Well, we
So,
hope you feel better soon.
thank you.
Take more prescribed breaks and keep yourself healthy. So, okay, girl, Susan, it's on you. Oh, can you do the thingamabobber again?
Do the magic.
Yeah, the magic application on off. Here we
There
go.
we go. Can you
Yeah,
hear me
yeah,
now?
yeah. It works.
Okay, so apparently my microphone just falls asleep now, I guess. So I'll have to talk to IT. They set me up with a new computer and a whole new monitor setup while I'm gone. So we'll figure it out. I think the right brain, left brain thing was really interesting as I was reflecting on we're kind of doing a little bit of refresh with our agenda system.
Mm,
And we implemented this about a year ago, but definitely we've had a lot of new faces come in, lots of different practices from other cities. And so we kind of need to just push it all back out a little bit again and kind of thinking about how you approach some of that because it's a very left brain process to put together an agenda.
yeah,
It
yeah,
is very, you need to do this and you need to do this and you need to get other people to do this at a certain timeline. And if they don't, it impacts you. And like, it's a very left brain process.
hmm,
But some of our staff are very right brain, and getting the right brain people to live in a left brain process is a little bit tricky. So I'm thinking about different ways that like you can kind of create that visual for them
right.
um, to help them better understand and implement as we move forward.
Great perspective. And you taking that perspective back to, whoever's creating the left brain process will be amazing. Can you imagine those poor right brainers that are seeing that and just dying a little bit, going, oh my gosh, I don't ever want to do a meeting because I'm gonna have to go through this agenda process. It should be lighter, or yeah, lighter on the left and then not even heavy on the right, but there should be a context statement like what are we trying to achieve? What's our goal? And what are some loose agenda points? I'll tell you what, my agendas for my teams are pathetically loose because I'm trying to create drama I'm trying to unfold things along the way. Oh, well, because you were in 1650. It was like barely an agenda. And yet people are like, oh, thank you. I needed the agenda. Okay, good for you. So anyway, that's that. All right. Any last minute questions here, ladies? Otherwise, I will see you in 2 weeks.
How's your sister?
Oh, thanks for asking. She got home after 5 days. She's been in the hospital at Beaumont since then for a few days. She's not doing great. She's holding her own. I will get to see her on Thursday. And like a good news, bad news, her numbers went up in terms of the problem, but that means she's higher on the transplant list. So it's like
Yeah,
a good problem to, you know what I'm trying to say.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So we're just like holding our breath and just wanting her numbers to stay here so that she's not on the extremes and she gets the procedure. And yeah. And even then it'll be a long-term battle. So it's sadness on my part for sure. Thank you for asking. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Well, hopefully she pulls through.
Yeah. 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 It's we're all pretty darn optimistic. And if anything, she does not share a lot. She's a pretty private person. And so, as an example, okay, she was keeping the secret from the family, like the extended family. And I called her and I said, why? She goes, well, this cousin is gonna wanna like pray over me, and this cousin's gonna call me and want to rub oils on my feet, and this cousin's gonna. And I said, that's what you're afraid of? She goes, yes, I don't want to deal with all that. And I'm the older sister, so I said, well, let me take care of it for you. She said, okay, after some dialogue. So I just called everybody. I answered their questions. It took some time, but I said, please don't contact her. She wants her privacy. No one's contacting her, but now they all know. I said, you can let go of the secret. That alone is changing her. You know what I mean? like keeping secrets is just so gross. So thank you again for asking. I'm trying to do the energy work with her and keep her whole up here. So
Well, I hope you have a good visit.
pardon me?
I said, I hope you have a good visit.
Yeah, thank you very much. So ladies, I love you so much. So I'm very happy that you're here, and I love the little momentum that's happening behind the scenes. Crystal, feel better. Susan, you got stuff you're working on. Keep your vacation glow. And Heather, if you want to like not list out, but if you have specifics you want us to help with some tactical things, it doesn't sound, they're bigger, weirder issues, but we want to help you. So on that note, have a great day, everyone.
You as well.
Thank you.
Thanks,
You
Heather.
as well.